So the world that was the American South was changed by assassination from one that might have been welcomed without rancor back into the Union to one whose harsh reconstruction would cost a century of bitterness. It would be another 15 years before an American president would fall to an assassin. On July 2nd, 1881, the 20th President of the United States, James Garfield, was murdered.
Nobody knows about Garfield today. He's totally forgotten. However, Garfield was a very prominent political figure of his period, and Garfield's death was mourned by the country almost as much as Lincoln's was.
James Garfield was a compromise candidate for the presidency in 1880, defeating Ulysses S. Grant, who was running for a third term. Garfield took office amidst loud cries that he was nothing more than a machine politician who would award cushy jobs to political cronies. One of those insisting on just such a reward was a failed editor, Charles Julius Guiteau, aged 39. Madness dogged the Guiteau family. An uncle died insane, and his two sisters were insane as well. His mother suffered a nervous breakdown.
It became obvious to even any detached observer that this was a seriously mentally disordered person.
He had written an incomprehensible campaign speech for Garfield and personally delivered it to him at a Republican gathering. He would later go to Washington to claim his reward, ambassador to Austria or head of the United States consulate in Paris.
Guiteau is finally barred from the White House, and he grows to hate Garfield. On July 2nd, 1881, that terribly hot day, Guiteau holed himself up in his room, first in room 222 in the Rig Hotel in Washington, writing as usual. When he set out to kill President Garfield, he had with him a gun, an autobiography, and his book.
He took a carriage to the Baltimore and Potomac Depot to intercept vacation-bound Garfield. Guiteau told the cab driver to wait. He would be going to jail momentarily.
Garfield and his party walked through the waiting room on their way to, ironically, parlor car number 222, the same number as the room number of Guiteau at the Riggs Hotel. Guiteau approached Garfield from behind, took out his revolver, and shot Garfield in the back. The bullet pierced a major artery and lodged in Garfield's pancreas. Guiteau fired again, very wildly.
Garfield fell to the floor, crushing his silk top hat. A policeman named Kearney grabbed Guiteau and demanded, "In God's name, what did you shoot the president for?" Guiteau's reply was beside the point. "Have me put at the front of the jail, 3rd story, and I'll have you made chief of police." A doctor examined the president and said reassuringly to Garfield, "I don't believe the wound is serious." Garfield smiled weakly and said, "Thank you, doctor, but I am a dead man."
It took a long time for him to actually pass away, and it became sort of a national obsession for that summer of 1881 to focus in on what was happening to Garfield.
Garfield lingers through September and finally dies on September 19th. Guiteau spends most of his time in jail writing. When he finally goes on trial, he acts like a lunatic. He sings, he quotes from his autobiography, he scolds people in the jury and in the courtroom.
For all of Guiteau's crazy antics, the jury found him guilty and recommended the death penalty.
Guiteau was so supremely confident of the righteousness of his act that the last words he uttered before he was dropped on the gallows was "Glory, glory, glory." Guiteau went to his death on the gallows believing that memorials would be erected in his honor once the nation recognized what a service he had rendered in assassinating this president.